When people talk about the birth of the giallo film, Blood and Black Lace is almost always at the center of the conversation. Directed by Mario Bava in 1964, this film revolutionized the genre with its dazzling colors, brutal murders, and high-fashion setting. It laid the foundation for the giallo formula that would dominate Italian cinema for years to come. With its iconic masked killer, elaborate murder sequences, and a world of secrets hidden behind beautiful facades, Blood and Black Lace has been credited with shaping everything from Dario Argento's Deep Red to the slasher films that would follow in its wake. But what if I told you that Blood and Black Lace wasn't the first to combine the world of fashion, mannequins, and murder? That its bold style and thematic elements may have drawn inspiration from a lesser-known film, a Swedish thriller made 6 years earlier. Enter The Mannequin in Red. This film, set in the world of fashion, also featured a mysterious masked killer, vibrant use of color, and, yes, mannequins. Its influence is hard to miss once you take a closer look. While Blood and Black Lace undeniably left its mark on giallo cinema, its visual and thematic ties to The Mannequin in Red can't be ignored. In fact, some might say The Mannequin in Red was the true origin of the fashion-focused giallo, with Blood and Black Lace perfecting and popularizing it for future generations. Released in 1958, The Mannequin in Red, Mannequin i Rött, is a visually striking Swedish thriller directed by Arne Mattsson. Though relatively unknown outside its home country, this film set the stage for something much bigger. A dark tale of murder in the glamorous world of high fashion with an unmistakable emphasis on style, color, and suspense. Mattsson's use of vibrant reds, dramatic lighting, and intricate murder mysteries didn't go unnoticed by filmmakers of the era. In fact, many cinephiles point to The Mannequin in Red as an early precursor to the giallo genre, which would soon flourish in Italy. One of those filmmakers was none other than Mario Bava, the Italian maestro who would go on to direct Blood and Black Lace just a few years later in 1964. While there's no documented confirmation that Bava directly referenced The Mannequin in Red, the visual and thematic parallels are hard to ignore. From the mannequin-filled settings to the stylized murders and emphasis on color, especially the striking use of red, The Mannequin in Red feels like a spiritual predecessor to Bava's work. Both films explore the intersection of fashion, murder, and suspense in ways that would soon become the hallmarks of the giallo genre. Whether intentional or not, Mattsson's stylish thriller paved the way for Bava's Blood and Black Lace, which is often credited with establishing the visual language of giallo cinema. And yet, it was The Mannequin in Red that first combined high fashion with high tension. Let's take a closer look and see just how giallo is The Mannequin in Red. Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. I am Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo and giallo adjacent here on The King in Giallo. Backed by viewer demand is yet another giallo adjacent review coined How Giallo Is. And today we are talking about one of the first thrillers that could truly be labeled as the first proto-giallo, The Mannequin in Red, released in 1958. Here is How Giallo Is, The Mannequin in Red. The Mannequin in Red, or Mannequin i Rött, is a Swedish murder mystery thriller released in 1958. Apologies for mispronunciations, I am not good with Swedish names. The film is directed by Arne Mattsson, written by Folke Melvig and Lars Widding, billed as Lasse Widding. Music is composed by Torbjörn Lundqvist. The cast is comprised of Annalisa Eriksson as Kajsa Hillman, Carl Arne Holmsten as John Hillman, Anita Björk as Birgitta Lindell, Lillebill Ibsen as Thyra Lenberg, Nils Hallberg as Freddie Höström, Gio Petre as Gabriel von Hook, Bengt Brunskog as Johan Robert Bobby Nordahl, Lena Granhagen as Sonja Svensson, Lennart Lindberg as Richard von Hook, Koti Chave as Police Inspector Suna Ugren, Lisa Aland as Peter Morel, and Elsa Provitz as Katja Sundin, the Red Mannequin. The plot follows the married Swedish investigative duo, John and Kasia Hillman, as they investigate a murder at a famous fashion house. The model found dead, known as the Mannequin in Red, or the Red Mannequin, was one of John's new clients. Coincidentally, Kesa was already employed at the fashion house undercover as a model, tasked by the headmistress with keeping a close eye on all of the models, whom she suspects that one of the gals to be guilty of blackmailing. As the duo and their close friends look into the matter, Kesa discovers that there were numerous people who could have wanted the model dead because of her rapacious blackmailing, and as the days go by, it becomes obvious that the killer is trying to cover up their tracks further by murdering anyone who might be able to give them away. The Mannequin in Red is part of the larger Hillman Mysteries series, a collection of Swedish crime films that follow the recurring detective characters John Hillman and Kesa Hillman. This is the second film in a pentalogy of the Folke Melvig Lars Witting murder mystery stories. The Lady in Black 1958, The Mannequin in Red 1958, Rider in Blue 1959, Lady in White 1962, and The Yellow Car 1963. The Lady in Black and Mannequin in Red are the most successful of the 5 films in the series. Each film was distinct in its tone and approach to mystery, with The Mannequin in Red standing out for its avant-garde visual style and its setting in the glamorous world of fashion. These films feature the same recurring cast members and feel very similar to the stories of Miss Marple, the Hardy Boys, or Nancy Drew. The tone of Mannequin in Red is lighthearted and comical, with help from the comedic relief characters of Freddy, the stuttering assistant of John, who has a keen interest in automobiles, and his girlfriend, Sonia, friend of Kesa, who embodies the dumb blonde cliche, but is also technically savvy with the lemons which Freddy always brings around. Both these characters are very endearing and walk the line of being too forced. In fact, it's not quite as bad as an Argento movie where the comedic relief characters get in the way. In Mannequin, they do inject a bit of humor and charm into the scenes, which, on the whole, can be rather slow and perfunctory. Speaking of the tone, the film, as I've said, is more of a light-hearted murder mystery, despite some of the disturbing imagery therein, which includes a woman with a knife in her back and a blank mannequin-like expression on her face, an invalid who perishes in a house fire with no way out, and an effigy hanging on a gallows, later replaced by a real victim swaying in the breeze. In comparison to Blood and Blacklace, the movie contains about 0 sex appeal. If you took the sex and violence in Bava's masterpiece and replaced it with comedic relief, you would have something approaching Mannequin in Red. The style is there thanks to the director Arne Mattsson, 1919 to 1995, who was a highly influential Swedish film director known for his mastery of suspense and visual storytelling. He gained international recognition with One Summer of Happiness, 1951, but it was his work in the Hillman Mysteries series, including The Mannequin in Red, 1958, that solidified his legacy. Mattsson was praised for his bold use of color, atmosphere, and intricate murder plots, which foreshadowed the visual style later associated with Italian giallo films. His innovative approach to blending mystery, style, and tension made him a pioneer in Swedish cinema, especially within the thriller genre, and was one of Sweden's most influential directors during the 1950s and 60s. The Mannequin in Red is considered one of his masterpieces, standing out for its bold color use and its stylistic similarities to later giallo films. The film is often remembered for its striking visual style, particularly its use of the color red, which becomes a symbolic element throughout the film. This was a deliberate choice by Mattsson and Hilding Blad, the cinematographer, to create a unique and heightened sense of suspense as the vibrant reds contrast the otherwise elegant and sophisticated setting of a fashion house. Blad's cinematography in The Mannequin in Red is a key component of the film's legacy. The vibrant and saturated color palette, particularly the striking reds, enhance the tension and suspense of the story, prefiguring the vivid, color-drenched look that would later define giallo films like Mario Bava's Blood and Blacklace. Blod's work created an eerie atmosphere that served the mystery and thriller elements of the film. Annalisa Eriksson, 1913 to 2011, was a renowned Swedish actress and dancer whose career spanned over 6 decades. She began as a ballet dancer performing at the Royal Swedish Ballet, but soon transitioned to acting, where she became a star in Swedish cinema. Eriksson was known for her roles in comedies, musicals, and romantic films, often playing charming, energetic characters. She worked with some of Sweden's top directors, including Hasse Ekman, and became a beloved figure in Swedish film history. Her versatility and enduring talent made her a fixture of Swedish entertainment through the mid-20th century. Carl Arne Holmsten, 1911 to 1995, was a prominent Swedish actor known for his work in crime films and thrillers, particularly for his role as Detective John Hillman in the popular Hillman Mysteries series. Holmsten's career spanned several decades, and he became a familiar face in Swedish cinema from the 1930s to the 1970s. His suave, composed on-screen persona made him well-suited for roles in crime dramas, though he also appeared in comedies and romantic films. Holmsten remains best remembered for his contributions to Swedish crime thrillers and mystery films. Folke Melvig, 1913 to 1994, was a Swedish writer and screenwriter best known for his work in crime fiction, particularly for creating the Hillman Mysteries, a series of detective stories adapted into successful Swedish films. His collaboration with director Arne Mattsson resulted in classic films like The Mannequin in Red and The Lady in Black, which combined suspenseful plots with visually striking styles. Melvig's sharp, intricate plots and engaging characters helped elevate Swedish crime films during the 1950s and 60s, cementing his reputation as a key figure in the genre. Now, in truth, the film probably shares more with the German crime genre of film, Krimi, which was popular at the same time. But regardless, there are a plethora of ties to the later giallo genre. The black-gloved mystery killer, likewise, is also seen in Krimi, and its usage in Mannequin is hardly giving giallo vibes, but still, it's there. The mystery plot is indicative of the films of Hitchcock, as well as the canon of mystery novels and whodunits in the literary world going back over a century before the film was released. But as generic of a murder mystery as the plot is, the setting is undeniably reused in Blood and Blacklace, and whether Bava did see the film or not, this film series of mysteries, as well as their director, were widely popular in Sweden, and I imagine an Italian filmmaker, especially one who loves mystery, horror, and crime, probably has a greater chance of exposure to other European films of the time than most of us give him credit for. In other words, I don't think it's hard to imagine an Italian filmmaker seeing a Swedish film that came out 6 years before his movie. There are shots that are mirrored in Blood and Blacklace. Some of the characters even look damn similar. The plot involves enough blackmail for 3 Bava films. The creepy usage of rooms filled with mannequins is present not only in Bava's Blood and Blacklace, but also his Hatchet for the Honeymoon, 1970, which I will say that movie employs as many elements from The Mannequin in Red as does Blood and Blacklace. The matriarch in a wheelchair is present in Bava's Bay of Blood, 1971, as well. I will go as far as to say that the visual elements and visual style on display in this Swedish thriller are taken by the maestro and perfected in his films. The Mannequin in Red is a key piece of Swedish cinema and a significant precursor to the giallo genre. With its striking visuals, complex characters, and suspenseful plot, it stands as a hidden gem in the world of international thrillers. Its influence on later films, especially Mario Bava's Blood and Blacklace, solidifies its legacy as an unsung pioneer of the style that would define a generation of Italian horror.
Ja, det mystiska paret ja. Ja, de ska nog snart vara fast.